Good evening to you all. It's 7:03 p.m. Thursday, October the 5th, 2023. Karibuni. Thank you all for those who have already joined. Sami, Gracias, I see you, Suleiman, Abdi, M. Kebaso, all of you on Instagram. Thank you so much for joining our weekly live. Same for those of you on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. Welcome, one and all. My name is Solomon Wangwe, founder, managing director of Goshen Acquisitions Limited, as well as its wholly owned subsidiary, Grand Acres, the best, most transparent land selling company in Kenya, hands down. Been doing this for 12 years, so we know a thing or two about how to do this safely. Land ownership in Kenya, which is the reason we do these weekly sessions, just to share our experiences, drawing from those experiences to shed light onto any situations that you might be going through in your own land ownership journey. If there's any value we can add, why not? And we do these every week. So thank you again. If you know someone you like and love who would benefit from this session, as always, please share the link. Invite them quickly before we get too deep into the question and answer session. And because we're a couple minutes behind schedule, we'll go ahead and get started. So send in your questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. We will answer every single one. And when we don't know, we will let you know that we don't know. As always, I have a team. Okay, cool. As always, we have a team here with me to help me do these because it takes team effort. George Kagwe, our usual DJ, same as Gladys, she's like part of the furniture for these sessions, to be honest. But if you hear me talking to someone off the screen, that's who I'm talking to. Don't be concerned, I'm not going crazy. So let's go. Send in your questions, happy to answer. If you have nothing to ask, it's cool. Maybe you have a comment, an observation from the week's events around properties, land ownership, property ownership, the industry in general. Feel free to do so. You have a criticism as well. We welcome that. And let's have uplifting conversation this evening. So, Cheruyot Kiplangat, I see your question. Thank you for being the first one to send this through. On YouTube from past Tuesdays live. That's this week, I guess. Can you act as my agent when purchasing land? Not necessarily the land you sell as Goshen. If yes, what percentage of the buying price will you charge? Thank you for that question, Cheruyot. We are not agents or brokers. For that reason, we only ever sell land that we own ourselves. We never act as an intermediary between a purchaser and a seller. And so for that reason, we're not the right partner for you. It's a decision we made a long time ago, actually right from inception of Goshen Acquisitions in 2012, that we would never act as an intermediary on a property that wasn't our many reasons. We need to be able to be 1,000,000% certain, if there's such a thing, of the provenance, the trustability of the ownership documents to the property that we would be mediating, in a sense. Okay, that's impossible to do as an agent. Impossible. It won't make sense for an agent to get into the kind of due diligence that is necessary to have that kind of certainty. And so we just wrote it off from the very beginning. Also, a lot of parties in Kenya tend to be very dodgy. You find a buyer, then the seller doesn't want to pay you the commission. You've burnt fuel, energy, resources finding the buyer. It's just a mess. We're not interested. So we'd just rather deal with our own properties. That's why we buy and sell, so that we are sure of everything from start to beginning. So I wish you success, Cheruyot, finding the right partner. Um, yeah, thank you for that question. Serem_T on the Instagram. Thank you for tuning in, Serem. Your question reads, as can someone change leasehold to freehold? Can someone change leasehold to freehold? In theory, it's supposed to be possible, but practically speaking, it is virtually impossible. Why? Simple. Whenever you're converting from freehold to leasehold, which is the other way around, what you're doing is creating revenue collection opportunities, particularly for the county, as well as the national government. Okay? A leasehold property is subject to two sort of continuous annual taxes, rates and rents. Rates are paid to the county, rents are paid to the national government. So if you have a leasehold property, those two taxes will be due at the end of each year, which is why you get, you know, clearance certificates from the authorities before you can, and transfer the property, borrow against it from a bank, and that sort of thing. Now, if you're gonna try and convert a leasehold property which is generating annual revenues for the national and county government to freehold, meaning you're taking away the revenue generating opportunity, especially for the national government, because freehold, the national government cannot charge you rent on. Some counties are charging rates for freehold. Apparently, that is permissible under the county's revenue generation initiative, where counties have to generate their own revenue as opposed to waiting for their national allocation, the national pie, their piece of the national revenue pie, right? Virtually impossible to get approved. I haven't seen any case where that's been done. If in case you're out there and you've done this successfully, please let us know. You would be the first in 12 years that I've had it been possible. The authorities generally frown upon that because why are you changing? Why are you taking away the revenue generating? If it's a leasehold property, it's leasehold for a reason. It's economically viable, commercially viable. It's owned by a foreign national, potentially. Therefore, what's the idea behind changing that back to freehold? In theory, it's supposed to be possible. In practice, I've never heard of it being done. It's just difficult to explain. So let me know how it goes in case that's what you're trying to do. Okay? Thank you for that question. Jay Baller on TikTok. Hey, Jay, thank you for tuning in. Your comment reads as follows. Hi, bro. Which areas have the best farmland? I'm looking for 5 acres and up, either buying or leasing. Jay, it depends on what you're trying to farm. Obviously, certain things perform well in certain areas, zones, altitudes, soil types. Um, I think that's a good place to start in terms of regions. I mean, we have so many arable lands in Kenya, stretching from the western part of Kenya, border with Uganda, obviously, all the way down into the coast. Places like Kilifi, a lot of Kwale County is very good for farming. So it just depends. What are you trying to do? Is it animal husbandry? Is it crop farming? I think that will determine. Um, and also your budget. Certain areas are very expensive. Tigoni Limuru is famous for agricultural productivity, primarily tea because of the high altitudes. Also, historically, I think the colonial masters already set Tigoni and Limuru onto that trajectory. But I happened to be looking into horticultural projects a few years ago with a potential partner. Turns out Tigoni Limuru area is really good for strawberry cultivation because of the altitude, as well as the climatic conditions you'll find at that altitude, and the soil types, obviously. But in Tigoni, Limuru, you're going to be paying anywhere from 25 to 40 million shillings per acre. Those are the prices we constantly, uh, get thrown at us for various properties that we've looked at or considered. That's very expensive for agricultural use, right? Anything you're paying more than a million or 2 million for agriculture, I think is a difficult economic case to make. So it also depends. Whereas if you go further out, places like Kilifi, Kwale County, um, even Tana River, parts of Malindi, which is great for pineapple farming, for instance, there are places you can buy land for 100,000 shillings an acre or less. So it just depends. What's best for farmland? You'll find farmland all over Kenya, even in Nairobi. There are parts of Nairobi that are farmlands, but depending on what kind of farming you want to do, obviously your economic feasibility study will tell you where it makes sense. Even for leasing, some leases are really expensive because of the location. Some are dirt cheap. Um, Access to amenities and that sort of thing. Okay, so Jay is saying mostly into horticultural, onions, etc., perhaps hot areas. Okay, now we're talking details. So if you're looking at onions, uh, famous onion growing zone in Kenya is Makueni County, all the way down into Kajiado County towards the border with Tanzania. The Emali or Loitoktok corridor is famous for that. Very warm, great for onions, all the way down into Taveta County, which also sort of straddles our border with Tanzania, all the way to the coast. Excellent for onions, horticulture, and also fairly affordable. I looked at leasing land on that corridor, Oloitoktok corridor. This was maybe 6 years ago. The owners were asking 7,000 shillings per acre per year, which I negotiated down to 6,300 shillings per acre per year, which is not bad. Obviously, the economics of whatever you're trying to cultivate will determine where you ought to be for leasing. In terms of buying, you're looking at anywhere from 300,000 shillings per acre, all the way up to 1.5, 2 million shillings per acre on that zone, all the way into Taveta. So I strongly recommend Makueni, Kajiado County, Kajiado South specifically, really great for onions and that sort of thing. Taveta as well, undiscovered, not too many people doing stuff in Taveta. Twiga Foods, I believe, has a massive onion farm in Taveta, mechanized farming happening down there by Twiga Foods, who are a famous, company, success story, agri-tech business in Kenya, who are now also producing some of their the products that they sell themselves. So that's quite telling in terms of Taveta. I'm sure there's a few other zones. A great resource for you that I recommend is talk to CALRO, Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization, I believe. They used to be CARI, but they rebranded because they combined the agricultural guys, the crop guys with the livestock guys. It's now called CALRO. They have a lot of data on what zones are best for certain things. Have a conversation with them, and that might be a great guide for you as well. So there you go. All the best to you, man. Abraham Cherus, I guess you're watching us from YouTube. Thank you for joining us, Abraham. Hi, Solomon. I obtained my certificate of lease for an allocated parcel in May this year. But the land registrar retained my original sealed RIM. Okay, was that right, or I should go back for it? So I'm going to repeat that. Abraham Cherus says, I obtained my certificate of lease which is for leasehold property for an allocated parcel in May this year. But the land registrar retained my original sealed RIN. Was that right, or should I go back for it? Okay, it's highly unusual for a registrar to retain a registry index map because they can always get them themselves from the survey department of the same ministry. Um, I'm not sure why they would have done that, but at least you can go back and ask for it or simply requisition a new one. Go to the survey office, pay the fee, it's 300 shillings, and they'll issue you a new one certified for your for your particular property. I'm sorry for that. I'm not sure again why the registrar would need to retain your RIM. So strictly speaking, because you use the one original sealed RIM there, there's only one original RIM, sometimes two. Uh, they are on clear vellum sheets under lock and key Department of Survey of the Ministry of Lands. What happens when you get a certified copy? I suppose that's what you mean by sealed, is a certified copy, is you pay the fee, they go and remove the vellum, the one of only two originals, if that many, and they will make a copy on the blue sort of oxide paper, so it looks like a blueprint, and then they certify the blueprint looking one for you. And that's what you would take with you, but not the actual original. So if you had the actual original with you, that's the problem. You're not supposed to. That's a government document. It's the original copy that they use and amend from period to period, time to time, to update what's going on with amalgamations, combinations of different lands or subdivisions as well. So if you have the original, that's a big no-no. You're the one on the wrong. That's why the registrar might retain it. But if you're talking about the blue sort of blueprint looking paper that had a certified stamp from the county surveyor or the regional surveyor, that you can get multiple copies of. There is no limitation. Just go and pay for a new one and you should be good. All the best, Abraham. Black Lion International on Instagram says, are the police allowed to take a green card from the registrar's office? Okay, well, without having more details, Black Lion International, yes, if you're talking about the Directorate of Criminal Investigative Services, from time to time, especially when there's a fraud situation involving that file, they may remove it from the Ministry of Lands and put it under lock and key in their custody. I've had that happen before on a property that we were involved in. Someone was trying to steal one of our properties. Someone reproduced a fake title to the same piece of land that we owned. Unfortunately for them, because we followed due process, we were able to provide every document from start to finish. And the registrar was very keen. They caught that because they had our information in the file already. So they flagged it, reported it to the DCI, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. And the DCI actually registered a caution on the actual green card with the fraud case number, and then it was put on the lock and key. It's very rare, however, that they remove it from the registry. Even when there's fraud, usually they'll just have it put on the lock and key. But it's not unusual. It's not unusual. It happens from time to time. So, best thing I would advise Black Lion International is get your licensed advocate of the High Court of Kenya to make inquiries officially as an officer of the High Court, and they will be able to tell you exactly why the police were allowed to take the green card from the registrar's office. Okay, it's good to do just to let them know that there's formal engagement that would prevent them from any monkey business. because that also happens sometimes. We've seen it happen on properties that we're dealing with. So, licensed advocate, High Court of Kenya, in your corner, engage them, ask them to find out for you. Thank you for that question, though. Kelvin Theory, hi Solomon, I would like you to be my mentor. Well, I appreciate that kind compliment, Kelvin. Um, well, first of all, I'll say I do not believe I qualify to be anyone's mentor yet. Uh, Broadly speaking, there's a lot of misconception out there about what mentorship means, especially for the one being mentored. And so that's not something I do. I will kindly decline, even though it's nice to think that you feel like I could mentor you. Best advice is check out my content, keep interacting the way we are. If we ever have an opportunity to meet in person, well and good. But currently, I don't do mentorship, and I wish you all the best, all success to you, Kelvin. Thank you for that kind comment. So Serem T is back. Serem_T on Instagram. Would you recommend someone to purchase land whose title is on leasehold? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as long as, first of all, it meets your objectives. Step number one on the Grand Acres checklist to safe land ownership in Kenya is defining your goal. As long as the land meets your specific goal and objectives for owning it, absolutely not. I have no objection to leasehold. There are certain areas of the country where you cannot buy anything other than leasehold, like Nairobi. Most land in Nairobi, urban commercial centers, even Kisumu, parts of Kisumu, the coast, for instance, uh, it's very rare, if not impossible, to find beach fronting land, for instance, that is not leasehold. I think every title on the beachfront in Kenya has been leasehold since independence, or even before. So there are certain places where you can't buy anything other than leasehold. Now, does it meet your goals? Can you afford the price? Are you happy with the land? Blah blah blah. The amenities around the place. Whatever criteria you're using to decide that this place is worthy of your ownership, absolutely nothing wrong with leasehold. Thank you for that question. Sarah Mwangi, hi Solomon. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. I'm sorry I'm late to join. You're not that late, Sarah, but thank you for joining. So you say, I'm not sure if this is up your alley. I've been trying to pay for land rates in Nairobi County and I have hit a wall. I have tried to pay by M-Pesa, can't seem to find any information that is accurate to do it that way. And the e-platform seems not to be working. Any help you can give would be most helpful. All right. Well, Sarah, the only times I have paid for rates in Nairobi, I actually went to the physical banking hall and deposited the funds into the county's account, and then went to the county banking hall, okay, with my receipt to prove that I paid, and they issued a clearance certificate. I've never done it by M-Pesa, so I'm not sure why it wouldn't be working. If you're here locally, physically, my best advice is just go to the county office yourself, and try and do it the manual way, the, the analog way. If all these electronic options seem to be giving you problems. I hope that helps. All the best. Abraham Cherus says, yes, the bluish copy. Okay, this is about the RIM. The bluish copy, but with a seal, stamp, and sign. The registrar said it will be filed with the other documents in my file. The Kenya survey in Nairobi told me they cannot issue another sealed copy. Okay, then what you're talking about is not the registry index map, it is the approved subdivision sort of plan that was used to produce your property if it had a seal. Because those are also done on blueprint papers. Yes, in that instance, the registrar is supposed to retain one on file. In this case, I think your registered planner or the surveyor who prepared your subdivision scheme did not produce enough copies that you could keep on yourself. Usually, I make my registered planners do 7 copies because they have to leave originals at various offices along the way. And that way I can still keep my copy. And possibly my lawyer can also keep a copy of file. So if I understand you correctly, if it's a bluish copy with the seal and the stamp and sign, because registry index map never have a seal, they have a stamp and a sign. But if it has a, sort of like a proper seal embossing on it, then you're talking about a different document. In that case, yes, the registrar is supposed to retain it on file because it'll demonstrate how the mother parcel was fragmented to whatever produced your piece of land, and that is indeed supposed to be put on file, and the survey office would not issue other sealed copies. If in doubt, Abraham, get in touch with a surveyor, a licensed surveyor, or a registered surveyor's assistant to look over the document and advise you further. And they can try whatever is possible to access other copies for you in case there are others out there that they might possibly retrieve. So I hope that helps. Sometimes I wish we could share images live. Because it would go a long way. Okay, so Sarah Mongi says, Sawa, thank you. It was what I was dreading as I have made the payments online in previous years. So I was wondering if it's common knowledge that something seems to have changed. Welcome, Sarah. It might be a glitch because everyone in the show is trying to beat the deadline or something for paying rates. But yeah, it's not that bad if you visit the physical office. So don't dread it too much. It should be okay. Or you could send a lawyer to do it for you. Okay, so Oscar A1 on TikTok says, how much does it cost to transfer a title deed? Okay, Oscar, I'm going to ask you to be a bit more specific. What do you mean by transfer? Because transfer of a title involves a lot. There's many documents involved, some of which you pay for, some of which your lawyer prepares. So are you referring to legal fees associated with the transfer? Or are you talking about the government fee for a title transfer? So maybe you can be more specific and I can answer or give you an indication. We out of questions? Okay. Gladys, hizi kamera zako ziko kombo sana. We need to get you an extra pair of glasses. Okay. There we go.
This one from Serem.
I can see it.
Can a green card be tampered with?
Okay, Serem_T says this is Instagram, right?
Yes.
Can a green card be tampered with? Yes, it can. The only people who can tamper with the green card are the registrars at the registry themselves, and in some cases, intelligence officers in cahoots with the registrar. Unfortunately, it does happen. We're dealing with a case right now on a property that had multiple green cards. So someone internally exercised a lot of monkey business. Thankfully, we flagged it early, and the matter is now in court. This is on a property that we were looking at acquiring. So yes, it's possible, which is why you need to work with licensed professionals to help guide you. Don't try and do this stuff on your own, guys. There's a reason that there are professionals in the industry who deal with this on a day-to-day basis. So get yourself an advocate. I think that's step number 6 on our Grand Acres checklist. If you're curious about what else is on that list, the 9 steps, go to our website, www.grandacres.co.ke, find the tab that says checklist, and download it absolutely free. It'll ask you for your name and email address so that it can send you the PDF. And share it widely to your friends and family who are also keen on safe land buying in Kenya. Okay? Awesome. Sarah Mwangi has another question. My mom retired before iTax was implemented for tax. She relocated and works out of the country. She is in the process of transferring land, and stamp duty needs to be registered. How should we register her on iTax? Should we assume that she is retired and does not make income, but also she has rental income and she has never registered her income? Any guidance on who we can talk to offer guidance? Absolutely, Sarah. Regardless of your mom's retired status, especially if she's still registering rental income, which is subject to 10% tax every month, she needs to get on iTax in a hurry. Okay, the taxman is not playing games, especially in the season we're in this country, economically speaking. So you need to help your mom regularize that as quickly as possible. An accountant could help you with that. A good accountant can help. Or you can also do the, all you have to do is go to the platform or go to the office KRA. They have regional offices now, so you don't have to come all the way to Nairobi even. Just go and explain to them that you need to upgrade to iTax, and they have officers there who can help you do that for your mom. Okay, assuming she has a PIN number already, that's easy to do. It takes a few seconds. It's not a big deal. But thereafter, she will need professional guidance and advice on how to catch up on any filings she hasn't been making, as well as be able to facilitate payment of stamp duty for the transfer that she's making to you. Because absolutely right, that cannot happen if you're not on iTax. It's all done on the online platform these days, which is great. It's a lot more efficient. So I strongly recommend that you prioritize that. If you don't have someone who can help you, like an accountant, just go to a regional KRA office. They have officers there who can help guide with that. Okay, Black Lion International on Instagram yet again says, what is the best practice for a foreigner buying a land with a freehold title? To make a deposit, then convert title. Also, who should pay for the conversion, the seller or the buyer? Okay, best practice, obviously, foreigner has to convert, or the title rather, has to be converted to leasehold before the foreigner can be registered as its owner. Okay, very important. So in this case, make a deposit to lock in the transaction, obviously. Do not pay the deposit directly to the seller because this process is long It can take up to 90 days, sometimes longer, because it's sort of like a change of user process because you're changing the tenure of the title. Gazettement periods are part of that for public participation, commentary, and that sort of thing, objections, circulation to certain offices before the conversion can be granted. So, in the meantime, let your deposits sit in an escrow account. That's step number 8 on our Grand Acres checklist. Use the escrow account. Don't pay the seller directly. Have the funds sitting safely until the conversion is through. And then the registration of the foreigner can be done on the newly minted leasehold title. As far as who should pay for the conversion, that's a matter of negotiation between both parties. We've done 2 recently for our Ibuko project for 2 foreigners, foreign nationals. In both instances, we told them upfront, listen, these are freehold. If you want to own these, it has to go through a conversion. There's a cost associated with that process for the licensed professional who has to do the gazettements and that sort of thing, for the lawyers, blah, blah, blah. We're not covering that, so you have to be willing to absorb the cost in addition to our selling price. In both cases, they were fine with it. And generally speaking, as a guideline, in terms of what we've paid, I'm sure this will vary depending on which professional specifically you work with. It's not a standardized fee. Lawyers are brands. Some registered planners are brands, so they'll charge a bit more because they have a lot more experience. They have more clout in the industry and with the offices that are involved. For us, in both cases, we paid somewhere around 250,000 shillings, or rather, I should say, our buyers paid 250,000 shillings for the conversion of the title from freehold to leasehold, in addition to our selling price. So that's a matter of negotiation. If the seller is willing to pay, well and good, maybe you wrap it into your purchase price, whatever the case may be. But most important, for the foreigner, the buyer, do not pay fully for the land until the conversion is through, because it's illegal. A foreign national cannot own freehold land. And the last thing you want is be trying to retrieve money from the seller after you've paid it and the conversion is not done. So have your money sitting in an escrow account. The licensed advocate who's going to be controlling that escrow account needs to give you professional undertakings about how and when the money can be released to the seller, so that everyone is covered. I hope that helps. Black Lion International, all success to you. Sir Prestige, man, Sir Prestige, I haven't seen you in a long time. I hope you're doing well. You used to be a permanent fixture on our lives. It's so good to see your name up there. Thank you for tuning in today. So Sir Prestige says, hi Solo and the gang and the G gang. I like that. We should adopt that, the G gang. What is the basic process of renewing leasehold tenure nearing its last 10 years? And do you know how the cost of this is calculated against the value of the land or rates? Thanks. Okay. Basic process is you go to the registry, the relevant registry with your documents. 10 years is too long. I would wait for, the last 2 years. 10 years is too early. They won't let you renew it that early. Depending on the registry, you can find out how long they can advise you on how long it takes. The point is you will have lodged your application before expiration. So don't get too hung up about how many years are left before expiration, right? Cost is calculated as a stamp duty, basically for the renewal. They have their formulas that they use depending on the region. So the valuer at the registry is in charge of doing that. They will reassess the value at the point of your renewal. and determine what your rates would be, depending on the county as well. Okay. Um, so I can't tell you in advance. It's not a fixed thing or a formula that we have access to, at least for the time being. You just have to engage the officers themselves. The registry for one, for renewing the lease, the county office for determining or establishing valuation against which your rates and even rents will be determined. These are usually special conditions listed in your lease document, which is complementary to your certificate of title for leasehold property. So look at those documents, have your lawyer look at those and help you navigate that. It shouldn't cost much, and then engage the officers directly. Don't do it 10 years before. They won't do anything. You know, the point is you've lodged your application for renewal in good time before its actual expiration. I hope that helps. Abraham Cherus says, yes, I can share a copy I have online, maybe if you give me your email. All right, Abraham. Gladys will DM you my email address so that you can share that. And viewing the document, I can guide a bit more specifically. Thank you for that.
Check into WhatsApp so that we see his number.
Okay, Abraham Cherus. My team here is telling me to make it easier for them to contact you, send us a WhatsApp message so that we can have obviously your number on WhatsApp. And the number for WhatsApp, Abraham, is 07 0001 0001. I'll repeat that again. It's 07 301 301. Okay, and Gladys will communicate with you. John Mugo, the realtor, says, hi Solo, a seller has land. She had an unsecured loan, got late in repaying the loans. She was asked to provide collateral and provided her land. She is now selling it, though it's not charged. What could be the reason it's not charged by the bank? Okay, well, the reason is because her loan was unsecured. I'm sure that's an administrative issue with the bank. If the loan was unsecured, then I'm sure they have to have supplementary processes to justify charging the land for that loan. In that instance, they're simply holding the title, probably, right? So there's no need to charge it because you need a title to transact anyway, unless he lies and claims it was lost and replaces the title while the bank is holding it, which would be a crime, right? So that's the only thing I can think of. Her loan in the first place was unsecured, approved as such. Therefore, there was no need to charge any collateral. But them asking for it means they're simply holding it as motivation. Much in the same way people would surrender logbooks and titles to properties to a hospital if they can't clear a pending hospital bill for a loved one and that sort of thing. I suspect that's what's going on here. If the bank intends to charge it, they will require possibly land control board consents and that sort of thing, which will require the lady's participation because she is a registered owner and that sort of thing. She will need to sign documents along with the bank. That's my best guess, John. Thank you for that question. Okay, for a buyer, how does one proceed to purchase it? Well, you will require your advocate to have custody of the original title. So if the bank is holding the title because it's collateral, then it may not be possible for the buyer to proceed. Okay, the lady has to make arrangements, make the bank comfortable about releasing her physical copy of the title to her, even though they haven't charged it, so that the property is transactional. So as a buyer, if you're going to put down a deposit, the lawyer has to keep custody of the original title. Absolutely. I never part with money on a transaction unless my lawyer is holding the title. And even when my lawyer is not holding it, it's the seller's lawyer holding it. And they give each other professional undertakings that it should not be released back to the seller until our transaction either is annulled or until it's surrendered to us to effect the transfer after payments have been made and other conditions have been met as stipulated in the sale agreement. So until the lady can get the bank to release her physical copy of the title, that property is not transactionable, unfortunately. Unless one way to go about it as a buyer, John, is to negotiate with the lady and say, we're going to buy the property for whatever we've agreed. You owe the bank Y amount or X amount. Okay. The bank is holding the title. We need the bank to release a title to the advocate. And in that instance, we can have undertakings between the two lawyers saying any money is paid towards this transaction will be used to settle the bank before she gets any money. That's one way to go about it. In that instance, I'm sure the bank will be happy to release the title into the safe custody of a licensed advocate who would have issued undertakings stipulating the conditions under which the title would be released to the buyer. Okay? And that simply has to do with the bank being sorted out on their payment. If she's selling, hopefully she's selling for more than she owes the bank so that the bank gets sorted out from escrow and then the rest goes to her and everyone's happy. Hope that helps. John Mugo, the realtor. Regina Gadegu says, hi, if the title is still under the parents who are deceased, they have never subdivided the land into their own title, but have divided among themselves and each selling their own part. I want to go ahead and have mine. How do I go about it? Okay, so let me understand you, Regina. There's a title deed under the parents' names. Okay? They never subdivided the land into their own title. Does that mean that they wanted to subdivide the land so that one parent had one title, the other parent had the other title? Please help me understand that. So that each can sell on their own, and you want to go ahead and have yours. I suppose yours would have to be transferred from one of them. Please provide me more detail, Regina. It's difficult for me to answer because I need more details. Okay, CF Baraza on TikTok says, hi, we have a prime land to be developed in Bungoma County. We need the land to be developed. Advice. My advice is develop it, CF Baraza. What's keeping you from developing it? Give me more details. And I might have an opinion. Okay. So Prestige says, thanks as always for the pointers. Are you suggesting that the leasehold renewal cost is kind of like another stamp duty tax and thus far from the cost of buying the land again? In a manner of speaking, Sir Prestige, yes. You are basically renewing your rights to ownership of that property. As far as whether or not the stamp duty is exactly the same, meaning 4% as when you're buying, I'm not sure yet. I can find out for you and get back to you. I doubt that it is, but there is some sort of stamp duty payable for the lease to be renewed. Okay, so I owe you feedback on that, Sir Prestige. Allow me to do that ASAP. Black Lion International on Instagram. In Kwale County, there are many foreigners with freehold titles. Should they convert voluntarily? Yes, they need to, because it's illegal for foreigners to own freehold title. It's not supposed to be possible. That's an illegality. If I went to court today and challenged their ownership, the court would immediately annul and void their titles. Automatic. There's no case even. There will be no case to be had. That's a material illegality. Black Lion International. So my strong advice to all those foreign nationals holding freehold titles is convert them immediately, quickly, while you're still alive, before something happens that puts their ownership or possession at least into jeopardy. Okay. Jitesh Vekaria, hi Jitesh, good to see you again this week. Sorry, I heard that you had trouble on a Tuesday live call. We had technical difficulties, as we seem to be having today with TikTok. Apologies, I'm not sure why. I hope it has nothing to do with the government's recent crackdown on TikTok policy. But Jitesh says, is it mandatory for the buyer and the seller to attend land control board meetings? In most cases, lawyers do it for us. How safe is that? Is it legit for the lawyer to do it for us? So, Jitesh, if you are the seller, it is mandatory that you present yourself to the land control board. It is not mandatory for the buyer to present themselves, although that is subject to the land control board's preference. Okay, so the Control Board Act, which establishes their legitimacy constitutionally with regards to agricultural lands in Kenya, the Land Control Board and the chairman specifically can ask for whatever they need in order to grant their consent, including requesting for the buyer to be present. So while it is usually not mandatory, the land board has a leeway to ask for that. But absolutely, the seller has to present. We also sent lawyers a couple of times as sellers, but they stopped. It's been years since any land control board has allowed us to do that, for obvious reasons. A lot of people were hiding behind that to perpetuate a lot of fraud, appointing a lawyer as an agent on your behalf to present documents to the land board. One of the main reasons they have these land board hearings is to ascertain the identity of the seller physically, right, with their identification documents presented. So one of the things they ask you for is your ID or passport and a KRA PIN certificate. They will observe you physically, look at your documents, make sure that you are one and the same person, and they will also match those details to the ones on the title document. Are you the one registered? Are you the one who was applied? What is your intent in transferring this? Are you selling? Is it inheritance? Do you have a spousal consent? Blah, blah, blah. That sort of thing. So mandatory for seller, not mandatory for the buyer, although the land control board is free and is allowed to require that the buyer be present. Is it legit for the lawyers to do it for you? Not anymore. I would not advise that you do that. Just make time and do it yourself. They will record that in the minutes, and you have all your bases covered. If you're talking about an expensive asset item like land, you don't want to leave any gap for misinterpretation or accusations that you avoided due process, therefore your transaction is null and void. As I stated before, the Supreme Court has already established precedents in Kenya where ownership was null and voided because due process was proven to have been skirted or avoided or made crooked or compromised in some way. And because it was a Supreme Court ruling, that has trickled all the way down to the High Court and then the Lands Court. There is no case. If anyone presents documents that prove that there was some irregularity, automatically the ownership is voided. Okay, so you don't want to leave any room for that. Just if you're the seller, attend. If you're the buyer, if they demand that you be there, fine. If you can go, go. If you can't, because sometimes buyers are not in the country, they are outside of the country. As in our case, about 50% of our customers tend to be in the diaspora. In those instances, we have their lawyer come, or they will simply write a letter saying, I'm unable to present myself physically because I am based in UK, I'm based in Australia, blah, 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 whatever the case, but I am the buyer. In those instances, you also provide supporting documentation, if necessary, like a sale agreement, showing that they are the ones buying, along with their ID. Their documents have to be attached to your application anyway, copy of the ID and KRA PIN. And as long as you can demonstrate that you are indeed the seller and you are selling, you're not a con man, con woman, pretending to be the seller and moving ownership of a property, then the rest is fairly easy. I attend 1 or 2 land control boards every single month consistently for the last 12 years. And that's been my experience. Okay. Serem_T. You get the privilege of having the last comment or question because we have, it's now 8 p.m. So I'll go ahead and answer your question, which is, which areas are you currently selling land? That's an awesome question, Serem_T on Instagram. We're currently selling in the Nanyuki, Acacia Cove. Amazing project. Please check it out. We have, I think, 20, how many plots do we have remaining? 27 out of 80 plots remaining. So majority are sold and selling quick. So check it out. Residential compound, professionally master planned, site and service, amazing project. Same thing in Naivasha, our All Kekun project, fully serviced mixed use development, commercial, touching the highway, directly opposite the brand new Safari Center complex where there's an art cafe market in Naivasha, with residential in the back. If you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, you should see the video playing to my left, which is to your right. All Kekun, right on the highway. I was actually on site this morning with some of our bankers' representatives. Amazing project. Check it out. It's also on our website. We also have Elementaita, an amazing compound, very rare, very difficult to get, right on the waterfront at Lake Elementaita. We have about 100 meters of water frontage, 99 meters to be precise. Quarter-acre residential, county approvals have been received, and we're gearing up to sell out. We've already pre-sold quite a number of plots, as we typically do, because we have a healthy community of existing customers who like to buy whatever we have coming up, because we have established trust in that way. They're happy to engage even before title deeds are out. And that video is also playing if you're watching me on those platforms I mentioned before. Waterfronting property, literally. Grand Acres, Goshen acquisitions. No one has any claim of leadership ahead of us in terms of the primeness of our sites. Every single one of our sites, difficult to find. So check those out. Thank you for that question. If you have any other inquiries about them, just WhatsApp us, we'll be happy to engage you further, Serem. And hey, Washu, I see you. Karibu. I was wondering what happened to you. You're probably enjoying boiled maize and Mam's Ngwashes in Nakuru, which is why you're joining us late as we close. Sir Prestige, good to see you. We appreciate you as well. Thank you for making time, and happy to engage further, as you say, on the leasehold tenures. I'll make a point of doing that, and perhaps even bring one of our legal experts on board so that they can address this, with a legal parlance and verbiage that some people might appreciate. But thank you all. Thank you so much for making time. It's 3 minutes past 8. We like to respect your time because time is money and money buys land. Wishing you all grand acres. Until next week. Be blessed.
Well, guys, I know people stand here and say a lot of good things. Us guys are not people. We are very different. So we'll be very real, rugged, and raw. We bought a half acre with grand acres, and that's a mistake we are never doing again. Let me just tell you guys. Yeah, moving forward, we'll be buying whole acres and above. Because it's amazing. It's amazing. My God. The process has been A1, and we have everything that someone needs to get as soon as they finish buying land. Ama unafikiria aje Bimkuru?
Kabisa.
Sindio?
Yani hata sina words za kuongezea.
Bas.
It's been
Smooth sailing journey.
exactly.
Good. Bas.
Yes.
Hapo sawa. Unajua hiyo story? My name is Abel Mutua.
Stephanie Mumbwa.
Judy Nyawera.
And we are land in Kenya.